What if I told you that skin told stories in ancient Benin? I am Joana. I uncover Africa's untold stories and help you heal through storytelling. The Iwu body markings of the Edo people was beyond identity. Iwu body markings, what are they? Before we explore that, let's look at the origin, because the origin story is really juicy. Now, where did the Iwu body markings, where did they come from? So there has been several accounts. There was one account that said it started during the reign of Oba Eweka. That's the first king of the second Benin dynasty. So we're talking about the 1200s. Another account says, no, it's Oba Ewa the Great. So this is about the 15th century. There's another account that's like, no, it is his great-grandson, Oba Buddha. He was the one that initiated the Iwu body markings. There is a story that I really like. This story is about this king, Buddha, the Sagacious, that's how it was called. He was married to a princess from Akure. When she got to Benin, palace politics, she was secluded to one part of the palace and she could not consummate her marriage. I like that word, consummate her marriage. What are they saying? She could not do the thing, right? Okay. So she was sad, and her father, the king, Akure, the Alakure of Akure, got to find out about this. And he summoned the Oba of Benin and said, come. The Oba of Benin went there with his entourage, his escort, his nobilities. And when they got there, they did small talk. The king of Alakure knows, I have other issues. Carried the Oba to his private chambers. And while they were talking, he had already put a hot machete in the fire, drew out this machete and lashed the Oba, and that was how the Oba of Benin, Oba Buddha, had scars. On their way back to Benin, the Oba was worried about, what am I going to tell my people? How am I going to explain and justify these scars? So some of his nobilities came up with a clever idea, and they were like, why don't we all get this kind of scars? And then when we get to Benin, we'll say it's the fashion trend in Akure. So they did it. There's another account that's like, no, that was not what happened. What happened was they went to war and the Oba was injured. Some of his nobilities were injured. Before they got to Benin, they cooked up this whole idea of, let us say it's the fashion of Akure. Good. Anyone, if you've got other take to this, drop your comments. This is how we build accounts of our history. They're different accounts. But the thing that's fact in this is there is Iwu body markings. There was this practice in ancient Benin. I still know people that have it because this thing stopped about 90 years ago. What does this Iwu body markings represent? Is it just identity? Because I say it's more than identity, and I'm going to explain why. But before we get there, let's go to the core of this story. The core of this story actually is the procedure, the surgical procedure that was needed. Because what happened was, when they got to Benin, there was now this inner circle of the Oba and nobilities that had this body markings, whereas the nobilities that gained higher ranking because of this brotherhood that was formed on the journey. And other nobilities that didn't have it, they wanted to be in that inner circle, and they were like, okay, we're going to go and do it. They went to now create their own Iwu on their faces. And before you know what was happening, it became a thing of a status. So it's beyond identity now. Status has added to it. We are now in the inner circle. There's something we know that you people don't know. We are special. Before you know what was happening, it diluted into the citizenship of Edo. So people now wore it as a sign of identity. We come from this place. I'm still going to debunk that it's beyond that. For so many people, hundreds of people, to now have this Iwu, there had to be a procedure. And then at that time in Benin, there was a profession called Osiwu. That is the surgeon. The Osiwu is a very respected, prominent, noble profession. You needed to actually spend like 7 years learning this profession, practicing as an apprentice before you now became free as your own Osiwu to start your own profession. And it was not like only men or only women. No, we didn't have that then. Women could become Osiwu. There was even a very prominent one, Eduge. He actually came from a lineage of surgeons. I think 4 of her siblings were actually surgeons. This surgical procedure needed more than just surgery. You needed to know more about the plants, remedies, creating painkillers, anticheloids. You needed to know how to treat the patient. So an apprentice, for example, will be sent ahead to a city. Like if the surgeon is coming, they come with their surgical basket, and they come with like their blades, and they come with their tools and remedies. But before they even get to that city or that tribe or that state, that community, they will send their apprentice ahead, and the apprentice will announce that they are coming, right? So when the surgeon arrives, the apprentice will update the surgeon like, hey, look, oh, this is the most urgent surgical process. These are the things we need. So there was even medical administration embodied in that profession of the OC, and the OC will now decide based on urgency or need what they will do. And after creating this evil markings or any other surgical process, they will also create the remedies, like I said, painkillers and so on. But they also used the herbs and the things around the nature where they were to create these remedies. So that is so much expertise packed in one profession. Now, what is the body marking? It is beyond identity, because if it was just identity, then the facial one will be enough. But I know people that had it on their body, and there were practices where you will see pictures of people that had these markings on their bodies, right? Don't confuse this with the violent markings that the European colonizers put on enslaved people or captives. No, this is totally different, right? The body markings were a thing of beautification, the beauty standards then, and it was also a thing of like social status. We talked about nobilities, but even different people had different. You had like princesses having a special one. It was something of social standards, identity, beautification, and there were people that believed like they could use it for spiritual purposes, protection, and also they had their own personal story engraved in that procedure. And then the most important one was the healing. It was also a part of medicine. Like they used these body markings when there was a need to insert herbs into someone's skin. Like the skin is the biggest organ that we have. And for example, also during immunization, yes, we had immunization before European colonizers came to the continent. So you see that there's so much expertise packed in this ancient tradition. It's beyond just the beautification or identity. And now, what happened when European colonizers came was that they didn't want this specific kind of identification or Iwu anymore, and they labeled it paganism so that they can eradicate it. With that forceful eradication of this practice, it also meant that the whole knowledge, medical expertise, surgical expertise, expertise on nature, on plants, the whole knowledge that was passed from generation to generation was lost. You will ask me, are we still doing it today? Do you still want to do it today? No, I don't even have those markings, even though I come from Edo, but I still know elderly people that have it. And the answer is no, I don't think we will even still be doing it. One, it was not really just the colonizers that ended it, because the people of Edo decided it did not serve them anymore. So it really stopped during the reign of Oba Akinzo II. If it was not forcefully interrupted by outsiders, what could have happened might have been it will evolve into something else, probably tattoos today. And the knowledge, that's the most important one, the loss of that knowledge, the loss of that institution of training, the loss of passing that knowledge from generation to generation, the herbs that was used, the immunization processes, like that surgical knowledge that would maybe have evolved into something that people can use today, that it will serve people today. When you look at today's tattoo, they also embody beautification, identity. There are even people that believe that some of their tattoos protect them. They have their personal story in there. So what do you think? I want to get your take on my theory about, like, if it was not forcefully interrupted, probably this medical knowledge would have been passed down. So that was the story this week. I am Joana. I uncover Africa's untold stories and help you heal through storytelling.